Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into something truly spectacular. Indian mural traditions, but not the ones you usually hear about. We're going beyond the Ajanta caves and exploring what came after.
Ashanta, yeah, it's pretty amazing. But the story doesn't stop there. It actually gets even more interesting as we head south. We'll see how things evolved under all the different dynasties.
This is going to be especially helpful for those of you getting ready for the UPSC exams or maybe studying art history in higher secondary school. We're talking about some serious GS1 art, culture, and heritage stuff here.
Absolutely. But even if you're just curious about art in general, stick around. This is a journey you won't want to miss. Imagine time traveling through centuries, seeing how artistic styles changed, who were the big patrons, what made each period unique.
I like it. A journey through time expressed through art. Okay, let's set the scene. It's the 6th century CE, the Vakataka dynasty, their power is fading. And in the Deccan, a new power is rising, the Chalukya.
And they picked a pretty awesome spot for their capital, Badami, sandstone cliffs, lush greenery. It's here that the Chalukyas, well, they really made their mark, politically and artistically.
Now enter King Mangalesha. This guy, he was known for his devotion to Vishnu,
Hmm.
and he really loved art. In fact, he had the Badami caves excavated. And cave number 4 is the real star of the show.
Yeah, cave number 4. It's dated precisely to 578, 579 CE, dedicated to Vishnu. That's why people often call it the Vishnu cave. It's a shame, though, only a fragment of the original painting is left up on the ceiling. But even that, just a fragment, it gives us a glimpse into the artistry of that time.
And that fragment shows a palace scene. Most likely King Kirtavarmasteme, Mangalesha's brother. It looks like he's enjoying a dance performance with his queen and the whole court. And what's interesting is you can actually see those connections to the Ajanta style.
Exactly. The lines, so fluid, the gestures, so expressive, and those eyes, large and captivating. It's all classic Ajanta. But what makes Badami different, it's subtle. It's those facial features. They're even more refined. The lines are incredibly delicate, almost ethereal. You get this sense of elegance and grace.
So picture this. You're looking at this fragment, and suddenly you're transported back to that royal gathering. You can almost hear the music, feel the energy of the dancers, sense the power dynamics at play. It's like a snapshot, frozen in time.
And this is just the start. As the Chalukya's influence fades, other dynasties rise up further south, and they each bring their own unique style to the mix. We're talking the Pallavas, the Pandyas, and of course, the mighty Cholas. Empires that left their mark on art and architecture in South India.
Get ready for dancing nymphs, majestic temples, and artistic innovations that will blow your mind. We'll pick up the story there next time.
All right, so we're heading further south now, a few centuries forward. We're in the territories ruled by the Pallavas, the Pandyas, and then the mighty Cholas. Now, you might remember from, history class that these dynasties, they were famous for their architecture, all those amazing temples and stuff, and, their military power too. But their contributions to art, especially murals, equally impressive, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely. And it's really incredible how each dynasty, they brought their own style, their own personality to the murals. It's like they were trying to one-up each other with their artistic innovations.
Yeah, a little friendly competition never hurt anyone, right? And speaking of competition, there's this Pallava king, not only a patron of the art, but he kind of considered himself an artist too, Mahendravarman Man.
Hold on. A king and an artist. That's pretty cool. I'm picturing him like with a paintbrush in one hand and a scepter in the other.
Haha, not too far off. He actually got titles like Vichitrachita, meaning curious-minded, and Chitrakarapuli, which translates to tiger among artists. This guy, he commissioned all these incredible rock-cut temples at Panamalai, Mandapapattu, Kanchipuram, many of them decorated with murals showing the artistic trends of his time.
It's too bad. A lot of those paintings are just fragments now. But what's left? It gives us a sense of that elegance, that flow that was so typical of Pallava art. Like there's this surviving figure of a female deity from Panamai, drawn with lines so delicate it's like she's floating.
Exactly. And then we move into the Pandya period, and we find the site that, well, any mural enthusiast has to see it, the Sitanavasal caves. Try to picture it. You walk into a cave, and boom, there are these celestial nymphs dancing on the pillars. Their colors, so vibrant, their poses, so dynamic, you can't help but be drawn in.
The Sitanavasal caves, they sound incredible. Like those nymphs are frozen mid-twirl, flowing garments, and their eyes, those slightly elongated eyes, just add to that ethereal beauty. And those elongated eyes, that kind of becomes a regional thing, doesn't it?
You're picking up on the details. That style, yeah, it carries over into other South Indian mural traditions. But let's switch gears for a minute and talk about the Chola dynasty. These were rulers known for, well, their grandeur, their architectural ambition. Think the Brihadeeswara Temple. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's really a testament to Chola power and artistry.
The Brihadeeswara Temple. Oh, man. It's more than just a temple. It's an experience. The sheer scale of it, all those intricate carvings, and of course the murals, and get to the 2 layers of paintings there.
That's right. At first, you could only see the Nyack period paintings, the ones on top, but they did this super careful cleaning and restoration, and guess what? The original Chola masterpieces underneath, revealed. It's like peeling back layers of history, uncovering a hidden treasure.
Talk about a historical bonus. And those Chola murals, they're a feast for the eyes. Shiva in all these different forms, the king himself, dancers, everything done in such incredible detail. It's like you're stepping right into a Chola court, witnessing their rituals, their beliefs, their daily life.
Exactly. Those murals, they weren't just decoration, they were stories, chronicles of Chola power, their religion, their social customs, and as we move forward in time, we see the rise of the Vijayanagara Empire. And that starts a whole new chapter in South Indian mural traditions.
This is where things get really interesting, am I right? The Vijayanagara Empire, with their capital at Hampi, it becomes this melting pot of styles and influences. What kind of changes do we see in their murals compared to, say, the earlier periods?
Well, the Vijayanagara Empire was huge. They controlled a vast territory. So we see this really cool blend of older traditions, especially from the Chalukyas and the Cholas, but combined with these new elements. And that fusion, it's reflected in their murals. They show this shift towards compositions that are more structured, more emphasis on their dynasty's history, and a new visual language that's both grand and sophisticated.
So it's like they took all the best parts of what came before and added their own unique spin to it, created a style that was like totally Vijayanagara.
You got it. And to really understand this shift, we got to visit Hampi, the heart of their empire. The Virupaksha temple there, it's a perfect example. It's got murals showing scenes from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the procession of Viduranya. He was the spiritual guru of the empire's founder, and you even get glimpses of court life.
And here's where those really distinct stylistic changes start to show up, right? The figures get flatter, profiles are more prominent, and those lines, even though they're still fluid, they're kind of contained within these more structured compositions. Like a whole new visual grammar is emerging.
You nailed it. The Vijayanagara artists, they were masters of visual storytelling. They used these new conventions to tell these epic tales, show royal processions, showcase how grand their empire was, and this new style. It wasn't just in Hampi, it pops up in other Vijayanagara sites too, like the Shiva temple in Lapakshi. Mythology and artistry intertwined on the walls.
It's amazing how those murals weren't just about, like, looking pretty. They were about power, about legitimizing their rule, showcasing their beliefs. It's like they were saying, hey, look at us, look at our history, look at our gods. It's visual propaganda, but in a good way,
Exactly. And as we move into those later centuries, we'll see how these Vijayanagara artistic trends, how they influenced what came after, like the Nayaka paintings. But, of course, there were regional differences and adaptations along the way. But for now, let's just hang out in that Vijayanagara world for a bit. A world where art and power, they came together. Created this legacy that, well, it still captivates us today.
We've been traveling through time, exploring caves, temples, seeing how these styles changed over the centuries. But I think it's time we talk about the artists themselves.
Yeah.
The ones who actually created these masterpieces.
Yeah, the unsung heroes. The masters behind those brushstrokes. It's funny, we get so caught up in how beautiful these murals are that we forget about the human element, the skill, the dedication, the pure artistry that went into making them.
It's like they left us these amazing gifts, these windows into their world, but they remain these mysterious figures. But maybe, just maybe, if we look closely at their work, how they did things, the choices they made, we might learn a little bit about them, their process.
Right. It's like we're art history detectives, putting the pieces together to understand how the artists thought. And one of the first clues is the medium they used, fresco. Most of these murals in South India, they were done in fresco. And that's a pretty demanding technique.
Okay, fresco 101, how does that work again?
Okay, so imagine this. You're an artist standing in front of a wall, not a canvas, but a wall, and it's prepared with layers of plaster. But the top layer, the final layer, it's still wet, and that's the key. That's where the magic happens. You got to work fast, apply the pigments to that wet plaster before it dries.
So the race against time.
Exactly, no time to mess around. And once the plaster dries, the pigments, they're locked in. It creates a really durable, long-lasting painting. That's why these murals have lasted for centuries, even with the humidity, the weather changes, you name it.
That's really something. But you need serious skill and precision for that.
Right.
No room for error, because once that plaster is dry, you can't go back and fix anything.
Right, no second chances. It's like this carefully planned dance between the artist, the pigments, and the drying plaster. And speaking of pigments, the colors they used, often from natural sources, minerals, plants, even precious stones.
Wow. So these artists weren't just amazing at composition and technique, they knew their materials inside and out. Like they were alchemists, transforming things from the earth into these vibrant colors. And those colors, they ended up on temple walls, telling stories for generations.
And when you really look closely at these murals, there's another thing that jumps out: the lines. The line isn't just there to define shapes, it's like a language. It shows emotion, movement, even spiritual energy.
Yeah, it's like they breathed life into these figures through the lines, how they curved, those little flourishes. You can almost feel the energy coming off of them. The tension in a warrior's pose, the grace of a dancer, the serenity of a deity.
Exactly, and their use of color. Equally captivating, from those earthy tones in the early Badami murals to the vibrant colors in the Nayaka and Kerala paintings. Color wasn't just decoration, it was symbolic. It evoked feelings, it created moods and atmospheres that pulled you into the story.
It's like you're stepping into a world where the colors themselves are whispering stories and emotions. But let's face it, all this beauty, all this artistry, there had to be some downsides, right? I mean, these guys were working on scaffolding, high up on temple walls, no protection from the elements, no air conditioning, no electric lights, nothing like that.
Oh, absolutely. It must have been hard work, physically demanding, and it took forever. Imagine mixing up fresh plaster every single day, working quickly to get those pigments on, then waiting for it to dry before moving on. You needed patience, stamina, and serious dedication to do that.
And yet, they did it. They kept going, driven by a passion to tell stories, to create beauty that would last. And centuries later, here we are, still captivated by their work, still learning from them, how they mastered their technique, their storytelling.
That's the magic of art, isn't it? It connects us to people from the past across time and space. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into South Indian mural traditions, let's remember to appreciate not just how beautiful these murals are, but also the artists who created them. The unsung heroes, they poured their hearts and souls into making these enduring masterpieces.
Well said. Their legacy continues, not just on temple walls or palace ceilings, but in the hearts and imaginations of everyone who sees their art. And who knows, maybe out there somewhere, in some forgotten archive, there are more clues just waiting to be found. Clues that can tell us even more about these incredible artists and how they shaped Indian art history. But for now, we'll leave you with this. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep that wonder for art alive.